hive tyrant's head.
Maintain Vox reports.
Clear that wall-climbing scum! Death to all Xenos!
Mike again, and welcome to another episode. If you're here, it's probably because you've already dived into Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 and realized that mashing buttons in melee combat isn't quite cutting it against the endless swarm of Tyranids. Fear not, my fellow Ultramarines, because I've got your back. Today, we're going to break down the art of melee combat and executions, and trust me, once you get the hang of this, you'll be slicing through the hordes like a hot chainsword through butter. Let's dive into the basics of mastering melee combat and executions in Space Marine 2, and as a bonus, I'll throw in some tips to help you avoid becoming Tyranid food. If you're as excited as we are about today's topic, show some love by liking and subscribing to Retro Pocket for more amazing content. Melee combat, where the real fun begins. Melee combat in Space Marine 2 is more than just hacking and slashing, though, let's be honest, hacking and slashing feels really good. It's about precision, timing, and yes, sometimes a bit of button-mashing finesse. Your melee weapon is your lifeline when the battlefield gets up close and personal, and mastering it means the difference between life and death. If you've ever dreamt of taking on Tyranids with a chainsword or power fist, here's your chance to make it a reality, but you've got to do it right. The first thing to understand about melee combat is that each weapon comes with its own unique combos. Whether you prefer the swift, agile strikes of a combat knife or the bone-crunching power of a thunderhammer, your success depends on learning the rhythm of these combos. It's not just about smashing buttons, it's about knowing when to hold, when to tap, and when to go full throttle on your enemies. For example, your trusty chainsword has a satisfying combo chain that allows you to slice through multiple enemies at once, while the Thunderhammer can dish out devastating AoE attacks that send enemies flying. But, and here's the catch, some combos are faster and weaker, while others are slower but pack a real punch. You'll want to practice with each weapon to get a feel for what works best for your style. Melee combat in Space Marine 2 isn't just about offense. You've got to stay on your toes defensively too, because Tyranids don't care how fancy your armor looks. They'll chew through it just the same if you aren't careful. And that's where dodging and parrying come in. When you see that flashy red circle above an enemy, that's your cue to dodge. Think of it as the game's way of saying, move or lose it. Timing is everything here, so press that dodge button right before the attack lands, and you'll gracefully roll out of the way, avoiding damage entirely. Now, parrying? That's a whole other level of badass. If you see a blue circle, you've got the chance to parry the attack. Time it right, and not only will you block the blow, but you'll also stagger the enemy, leaving them wide open for a counterattack. And guess what? That's when you whip out your gun strike move, shooting your staggered foe at point-blank range for some seriously satisfying damage. The execution dance, when to go in for the kill. Nothing says I'm the Emperor's finest like a brutal execution. Executions are not just for show, although they do look awesome. They're key to survival, especially when you're in the thick of battle. If your armor's running low, performing an execution will recharge it, giving you a much-needed boost to keep fighting. The trick is spotting when an enemy is ready for execution. Look for the visual cue, typically a glowing red aura around the enemy. That's your signal to press the execute button and turn that pesky Tyranid into space goo. Not only does this restore your armor, but it also creates a glorious spectacle that might even intimidate nearby enemies. Okay, that last part's wishful thinking, but hey, it feels like they're scared. When it comes to executions, size does matter. Sure, executing smaller enemies is great, but the real rewards come when you take down the big boys. Larger enemies not only give you more armor back when executed, but they also tend to be more dangerous. So getting rid of them quickly is always a good idea. To land those juicy executions on bigger enemies, you'll want to focus on dodging and parrying their attacks to open them up for a stagger. Once staggered, unleash your heavy melee attacks to deal significant damage, and when that red execution cue pops up, go for it. Not only will you feel like a space gladiator, but you'll also walk away with a fully recharged armor bar ready to take on the next wave. Weapon combos, the path to melee mastery. Each melee weapon in Space Marine 2 has its own unique set of combos, and learning them is crucial if you want to maximize your damage output. The key to mastering combos is knowing when to mix light and heavy attacks. Light attacks are quick and can chain together easily, while heavy attacks deal more damage but leave you vulnerable if mistimed. Let's break it down. Suppose you're wielding the Thunderhammer, a fan favorite among players who like to see their enemies blasted into oblivion. The Thunderhammer's combos often involve charging up a heavy attack followed by a ground smash that sends enemies flying. If you time it right, you can chain these attacks into a combo that leaves no Tyranid standing. On the flip side, if you're rocking a combat knife, your playstyle will be much faster and more focused on dodging in and out of combat, landing quick slashes, and building up enough damage to trigger an execution. The versatility of the combat knife makes it a great choice for players who prefer to stay nimble and reactive in combat. Choosing the right weapon for your playstyle. Not all melee weapons are created equal, and each one fits a different playstyle. If you're the kind of player who likes to charge headfirst into battle, the Power Fist or Thunderhammer might be more your speed. These weapons deal devastating damage, but they're slower and leave you more vulnerable to counterattacks. On the other hand, if you prefer speed and agility, weapons like the combat knife or chain sword are perfect for darting in and out of enemy formations, landing quick combos, and setting up executions. Whatever your preference, practice makes perfect. Spend time learning each weapon's unique strengths and weaknesses, and soon you'll be dispatching Tyranids with ease. In Space Marine 2, not only do your melee weapons deal damage, but they also come with different defensive profiles. There are 3 types of defensive styles: block, balanced, and fencing. Each of these affects how you approach combat, so understanding them is crucial. Fencing, for example, gives you a wider parry window, making it easier to pull off perfect parries and land executions. The downside? It weakens your ability to block incoming damage. On the flip side, the block style focuses on, well, blocking, making it easier to take incoming hits but harder to land those stylish parries. Balanced is the middle ground, giving you a bit of both worlds. Knowing which style suits your combat approach is key to surviving tough encounters. If you're the kind of player who likes to parry and counter, fencing is your go-to, but if you prefer tanking hits and dealing heavy damage, block or balance might be better suited to your playstyle. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and in Space Marine 2, there's only one way to fight: up close and personal. Mastering melee combat and executions isn't just about survival, it's about thriving in the chaos of battle. Learn your combos, time your dodges and parries, and always be on the lookout for that sweet execution cue. With practice, you'll be cleaving through Tyranids like they're nothing more than minor obstacles on your path to glory. So, go forth, Ultramarines, and show the galaxy why the Emperor's Chosen are feared by all. And hey, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tips and tricks on all things Warhammer 40K.